10 hut. Hi guys, General Splatting here. I got a tutorial today. This is a Skorne Sentry Titan that I'm working on for Mateo 0661. This is a color that he sent me. This is Cavalry Brown model color that he wanted me to paint the skin for it. And I'm showing you what I'm going to use to shade the skin is Gnarls Green, a P3 color, instead of using black to darken up to make the shade tones. Now I'm showing you Creamy Ivory here by Reaper Master Series. I changed my mind, so just disregard this color. I use a different color for blending up the highlights. Have the two colors here. Add water to it. I'm going to eventually get it to say 2 to 1, 1 part paint to 2 parts water. Just a touch of the Gnarls Green into the Cavalry Brown to get the right color for the shadow colors. That's all I'm trying to achieve, is get a thin color that I like to work with. Now moving into the model, just trying to, this is a light shade right here. It's going to get darker. I'll keep adding green to it to make it darker as I paint. Instead of speeding up this part of the video, since it's only 12 minutes, I decided to just do it in real time and just talk through it. What I'm trying to do is I'm looking downward on the model, and I'm trying to just hit where basically the light would fall off. Light is going to travel in straight lines, and where the curvature of the musculature warrants it, then I start adding the shading, trying to just get me a rough outline of where I'm going to be concentrating all of the shading with this first coat. Subsequent coats as I come to them will be a little darker, and I'm more defined and using purposeful strokes to really define the creases and the folds of the muscles and the skin, especially right there. Trying to, there's some little deep pockets, trying to really put the shadow into that to define those muscle areas. So notice as I paint, there's a purpose to the brush strokes I'm using. I'm pushing or pulling the paint into an area where I want it darker. So in a sense, I start outside the area and pull or push the paint into it to concentrate the paint more in that particular spot. Getting under the arm. Now this is mainly these arms. This is what I left to show for the tutorial, but mainly these arms are going to be covered. There's a magnet right there at the top where it's going to have a little shoulder plate that just clips on, and then the arm will clip on, or the hand and wrist will clip on to the bottom of it, and there's some like little wrist guards, armor pieces that'll cover it. So most of this will be covered, but certainly when the model is taken apart, they will be done too. I didn't skimp. Now here's the color I'm using for the highlights. Karthik Flesh. Just putting it, I have it on the palette there to the side. It wound up starting out being a like 2 to 1 mix, 2 parts of the Cavalry Brown to 1 part of the Karthik Flesh, and then for the final highlight, 1 to 1 upwards of 2 to 1 for the Karthik Flesh, mostly Karthik Flesh by then. I'm just putting in the high spots on the muscles. I'm not really worried about transitions at this point. As it turns out, I usually go back and do like a mid-tone to recapture them, but maybe I need to paint this way more often. They pretty much work themselves out, so I had very little of that to do. So, and I wasn't even using magnification, so I'm impressed by that. So I'm adding it to the high spots, and this is just a rough outline of the highlights, trying to get them in the places that I want them, and help to define the areas to let me know and see what is coming later. That's like an elbow fold right there. I hit that pretty good, and in subsequent parts of the video I'll come back to that again and again. Pretty much everywhere I come back to again and again. But notice on the brush strokes how I'm pulling it up to the high point from both angles, and even I'm going into the shadow. I think that's what really helped me with the overall blend of it, is I went back down into the shadow with the highlight color and came back up, so that the mid-tone was kind of reestablishing itself between the cancellation of the shadow tone and the highlight tone. Excuse me. Yeah, I'm off camera. I'm adding more of the karthik flesh to the mixture to get it a little lighter. The areas that I apply it are subsequently smaller. My zoom on this camera doesn't work, otherwise I'd have it zoomed all the way in so you could really see. But notice the brush strokes, like I say, how I'll push it into position. Now what I'm doing here is when that brush disappears, I'm probably taking off paint and getting it mostly clean, and I'll pull the paint back down into the mid-tone areas. You sort of my take on the two brush method, where you use one brush to put the paint on and the other brush to pull it back down and blend it out. So here I am, smaller areas, hitting the high points, trying to better define those high points on the muscle. And if you've got it cranked up to one of the big, where it fills the whole screen, you'll see me go into the shadow areas and pull it down to there and then back out again, and trying to get those areas to even themselves out and give me a smoother blend. These high points they'll get the final highlight. It won't, the final color or final tone of the highlight won't be over all the highlight area, just certain little spots. I'm not trying to go back up toward white, you know, the extreme highlights. I try to keep it more realistic. So that's what I'm doing here, is I'm pulling the paint upward toward the, you know, the pinnacle of the highlight point. But like I said, when you see the brush disappear, it's probably I've wiped it off, or kind of washed it just slightly, so I can pull the other paint back out. So finishing up here and trying to get those in just the spots I want to, manipulating the paint in such a way that it's more even, hitting that elbow area again. So that's one of the things I wanted to show when it's in camera there, is how I manipulate the paint by the brush strokes I'm using. I'm always conscious of where the high point is or the low point is, depending on what area I'm working on, and trying to push or pull that paint into that area. And for a quick blend out, then pull, once the paintbrush is mostly clean, then pull that paint back down so it becomes thinner and thinner, and blends itself more into the spot I'm working on. These particular muscles on this arm were actually pretty easy to work with, and I'm going to be doing in a future tutorial, I will be adding the oil colors, the Winsor Newton water mixable oil colors. Be giving those a go, because the camera doesn't show up, but there's lots of little bitty cuts within the skin, so it looks just like rhinoceros skin. So to help define those, I'm going to use the oil wash and then take it away from where I don't want it, and I'm hoping that the oil wash will be able to stay in those little cuts and creases. Final highlights going on in just areas, just trying to pick out a detail or two here or there. But that's pretty much it right there. You've got everything done like I want to. Anything else I would finish up off camera. Just fiddling with it really now, to be honest. Doing right here, I'm coming back in with a mid-tone. I thought I might need it, but once I looked over it, it seemed to be pretty much taken care of. So this is mid-tone right here at the end, coming back just to make sure it kind of evens itself out a little. Now you'll see in a moment the final result. The side has already been painted. There we go. And the new side just finished up. If you have any questions, let me know. This is General Splatting, and I'll talk again. Dismissed.